I'll talk and you'll sit there and look pretty, just like you do all this. If you're the type of person who wants to know the nitty-gritty numbers that are super complicated,
grab your calculators.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it. Deep dive. Last week we talked about causes, interest rates, and inventories. We kind of told a little story of the typical home buyer cycle, what that looks like in a couple of different price points. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's time for the deep dive. Are you ready?
You take the deep dive.
Woo!
Oh man! We should talk about how inventory changed over the course of the year and the demands on inventory that we see impacting the market in 2022. So, what happened in the first quarter of 2021? Start us there, take us through the inventory journey in Jackson County.
In the first quarter of 2021, we were already just nosediving with inventory. Riding a giant wave, and you just completely fit it.
So we had no inventory.
No inventory. So here's a couple of really great statistics to understand just how massive of an inventory depletion we've got. If we think about the U.S. Census, in Jackson County, there's about 62,000 households from the U.S. Census data. We also know that 3/4 of those are owner-occupied homes. Gives us right about 46,000, if I'm doing my math correctly.
Yeah.
So, and we know last year about 8% of households purchased a home.
That sounds high, doesn't it?
It does.
At first you're like, wow, 8% of people moved just last year. But what that trickles down to is that people are moving once every 12.4 years. And we know that the national average historically has been 7. So really last year, we had a lot of people wanting to move that couldn't.
Yeah. So some of the numbers that we pick out from last year, keep in mind, 62,000 households in Jackson. At one point, we had 171 homes for sale in Jackson County. When we've got 62,000 homes in the market overall, what do we really need? How many homes do we really need?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're going to see this come into play in 2022. We're going to see inventory tick up a little bit, but let me frame this out for you a little bit. 46,000 households in the county of Jackson. If we assume that people are moving once every 12 years, which is that if 8% of households are moving, people are moving once every 12 years.
Last year.
Exactly. That means that every year we need to sell 3,833 houses. So right around 3,900 houses. If we assume then that of that 3,833, we're selling about 1/12 of those every 12 months. That means that we need 319 houses to be sold every month. So that 171 is half of what we actually need month over month. But let's take this actual data, the 8%, and try and push it a little closer to the national average. Instead of once every 12 years, not once every 7, which is the national average. Let's say that we had people moving once every 10 years. We would need about 4,600 houses to sell every year. Chop that all into 12 pieces. We would need 383 houses to sell every month in order to satisfy the demand on housing. Which, again, that 171 just isn't going to cut it. But that's the low point of 2021. Let's take it all the way to the high point. We had a pretty decent high point in the market. 294 homes was the high point in 2021 for one single month. The month of October sold 294 homes. Which is still significantly lower than the average that we need in order to meet demand. So what does that mean?
That was close to 25% lower than what we really need.
Right. And that was our peak month. Yeah. So what we needed in our peak month was double the inventory, and then our lowest month, we need to have maybe half the inventory. So our lowest month could be 117, as long as our peak month and the other months in between there are a lot closer to 600 or 700 homes on the market.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, that's just factoring in only owner-occupied homes.
Right, yeah.
And when we factor in, or we try to factor in what renters...
Yeah, or people buying investment properties.
Right. What that effect has on the market.
Absolutely.
It just compounds this inventory problem that we saw all of last year, and that we're going to continue to see a lot of inventory depletion over the next year.
Right.
Hopefully not quite as bad.
Right. So let's talk about what's ahead of us for 2022. First, we need to discuss what's going to happen with interest rates, because interest rates are going to slightly inform the speed that buyers and the price that buyers are willing to pay for houses. So we know that interest rates through 2021 have been historically low.
Yep. Sub 3%.
Sub 3%.
A lot of cases.
Yeah. What's going to happen in 2022 to those interest rates?
Most of what we're hearing is that interest rates are going to keep rising. They rose the last 2 months or so, a little bit, ticking up. I think the national average now is about 3.1.
Somewhere in there.
3.2. We're going to see those continue to rise. Almost nobody is predicting that we're going to get well past 5% this year.
Right. So still historically low.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So thinking that 3 to 4% for most of this year.
Right.
So still really low interest rates, still inviting a lot of buyers into the market.
Right. We know that interest rates are going to go up. How is that going to change the real estate market in 2022?
Well, it's going to slow down the buyer demand just a little bit.
Just a little.
Just a little. So still means that it's really a strong seller's market. We're going to continue to see slight decreases in the amount of competition on each listing.
Yeah. So what does it mean for you, knowing what interest rates are going to do, knowing what we need out of inventory, what this means for the person who has thought about selling in 2022? If you're going to sell, you will have the most buyer demand in the first and second quarter. As we go into the latter half of the year, there will be a little bit of a slowdown. That doesn't mean, however, that prices will decrease. Instead, prices will stop increasing as quickly. Last year, we saw significant increases in prices, potentially as high as 12%, and normally they only rise 3%. This year, we'll see a leveling off in the second half of the year of prices. So let's say that you could sell your house for $250 at the beginning of the year. That may increase to $255 by the middle of the year. Well, it's probably going to stay at that price potential for the remainder of the year. What it doesn't mean is that your $250,000 house is going to be worth $200 at the end of the year. Instead, instead of entertaining 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 buyers, you may entertain 2 or 1 really great offer. But you still shouldn't expect to sell your house for significantly less than asking price, and you shouldn't expect your house to decrease in value because of the decreased demand from buyers due to interest rate increases. If you're going to sell your house this year, talk to us today. Don't hesitate. If you know your neighbor is thinking about selling, tell them that your real estate expert told you you need to think about selling now. Consider listing your house now, not later. That's not to pressure you into a life situation that doesn't work for you, but instead, we say this because we care about you. We think that informed consumers who make informed decisions are better off down the road. What we want for you is to have every penny of equity possible. What we don't want for you is to miss out on earning potential from the biggest asset that you own, your home.
You got there.
I got there.
That was a lot.
It was a lot.
Brain deep dive. We hope that you can now take a breath after digesting all of that, and look forward to another video real soon.
Thanks so much.